A local hospital is preparing to expand and renovate one of its facilities. More on those plans. Plus, Carrie Schneider is back with our friends at the DuBois County Humane Society, and Clayton Boyles and Connie Evans discuss endowments at the DuBois County Community Foundation tonight on Inform. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. We begin this evening with a big announcement from Jasper-based Memorial Hospital and Healthcare Center about its future. The hospital has announced that it plans to invest $2.7 million in order to expand and renovate the Longy-Foos Cancer Center. Hospital officials are citing growth over the last 4 years for the center as patient visits have gone up dramatically during that time. The project will add 500 square feet of new space to the center, and the center will also see 4,300 feet of its current space be renovated. In a news release, Memorial Hospital Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer Kyle Bennett says it is important for the hospital to complete this expansion in order to keep up with the recent growth. Construction will largely be taking place on the radiation oncology side of the cancer center. Once completed, a new CT scanner will be housed on that side of the building for use in treatment planning. Officials anticipate that the project will be bid out in the middle part of next month and construction would begin in April. Phase 1 of construction will be renovation of the former medical records space and building the aforementioned new CT scanner. Once that is done, the medical oncology space renovation will take place as Phase 2 of construction. Officials say overall construction is set to be complete in December. In other news this evening, a crash near Holland yesterday evening resulted in a driver being treated for injuries and later arrested on OWI charges. Just before 8:55 p.m. yesterday, Indiana State Police say 53-year-old William Byer of Ferdinand was eastbound along Holland Road East when he lost control of his vehicle on an icy curve. Byer's vehicle then ran off of the roadway and rolled over into a ditch. Byer, who was able to climb out of the vehicle, was taken to Memorial Hospital for treatment of a head laceration. Later on, state police found that Byer was under the influence of alcohol at the time of the crash. After he was released from Memorial Hospital, Byer was taken into custody and was lodged in the DuBois County Security Center. He is facing a Class C misdemeanor for operating while intoxicated. The DuBois County Sheriff's Department, Holland Fire Department, and DuBois County EMS all assisted Indiana State Police. 2 people from Shoals were arrested for their involvement in a string of break-ins and burglaries that took place in the community during the early hours of Sunday morning. The Martin County Sheriff's Department says they received multiple reports of vehicles and buildings that had been broken into in that area. 2 firearms were among the numerous items that were reported missing. Authorities say that the thefts occurred between 1 and 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. A Martin County Sheriff's deputy and an Indiana Conservation officer were able to recover the 2 guns that were taken in the break-ins. Arrested for possession of the firearms were 36-year-old Kimberly Fisher and 18-year-old Nathan Truelove, both of Shoals. Each are looking at 2 Class D felony counts of receiving stolen property. They were taken and lodged in the Martin County Jail. Police believe that Fisher and Truelove did not act alone in the break-ins and others might be involved. Anyone who has any information regarding these thefts or who might have seen anything that they believe to be suspicious is asked to contact the Martin County Sheriff's Department at 812-247-3726. The push for more hangar space at a local airport continues, and it has not come without some debate. Last night, the DuBois County Airport Authority heard from Wolpert Engineering concerning what it might cost to build a new 10-unit T-hangar for the Huntingburg Airport. Wolpert Engineering cited data from previous hangar building projects around the state, including one in White County. The total cost there, $410,000 according to engineers. $130,000 of that figure was for building materials. Wolpert Engineering gave a conservative estimate of between $500,000 and $800,000 for such a project to be completed at the Huntingburg Airport, a number that several members of the board balked at. 2 other examples were given, including one from Daviess County back in 2005 that came in the $250,000 price range, a number far more favorable to board members. The debate is far from over, however, as there is also question as to where the money for such a project would come from. Airport Authority President Brian Craig says the board first has to be sure what is needed to keep everyone happy.
we don't have a great idea of what we need. We know that there's wooden to steel. We know there's 10 unit. There, there's bifold doors. We know there's all kinds of things thrown out there. We know we don't want a Cadillac, but at the same time we've got to have something, a good quality hangar, that we've got to make certain that it's makes sense for our airport as well as makes sense for our tenants that would be using it, that it would be a reasonable price.
Ultimately, the board decided to have Airport Manager Travis McQueen do some further research on costs and types of buildings. That information is expected to be brought before the board at next month's meeting. Also last night, the DCAA approved a bid for work on the tree trimming project for Runway 9 at the Huntingburg Airport. Lechner Excavating of Jasper submitted the winning bid. They bid $21,900 for the project. Now, the deadline to have work completed on the project is April 1st in order to avoid potential troubles with permits through the Indiana Department of Transportation. Craig says in spite of the aggressive timeline, there are no concerns right now about the project getting done on time.
As of right now, no. We're working with Wolpert, our engineering firm. They're leading us through the process. They've directed us and said this is a very feasible timescale. So that's kind of where right now we're early on. We've just gotten the easement approved and getting everything moving forward. But right now, I think we're on track.
On a related note, Board Attorney Phil Schneider stated that Mabel Bartelt, who owned the easement that the Airport Authority had been seeking, signed off on the airport's offer to purchase the easement. Bartelt would still have access to the land under the agreement, which was authorized by the board at January's meeting. Finally this evening, the Jasper Police Department has released its year-end report for 2013. This morning, Police Chief Mike Bennett presented that report to the Board of Public Works. Over the past year, JPD officers responded to a total of 5,593 calls for service, of which 14% involved both personal injury and property damage accidents. As far as traffic contacts, the department issued a total of 4,370 warnings and citations, of which 16.5% resulted in a ticket being issued. 38% of the 103 criminal arrests for the year were the result of alcohol and/or drug-impaired drivers. Bennett says the department averages more than 60 to 70 accidents a month across the city, and he attributes as many as 70% of those to what he calls driver inattention.
Drivers not paying attention to what they should be, and it's focusing on driving. They're doing other things, whether it be reading their they're looking at texts on their cell phone, looking at adjusting the radio, looking at everything but driving, and obviously the main purpose is to be concentrating on driving solely.
Other totals for the year include officers conducting up to 103 fingerprinting checks for handgun permits, 53 ordinance violations, and 213 VIN checks for out-of-state vehicles that sought to be titled in-state. The department also looked into as many as 233 animal complaints that could range from dogs running through yards to barking dogs to food and water issues. A number of those calls came in during the recent run of frigidly cold weather. In other notes, 2013 saw several personnel changes for the Jasper Police Department. A number of retirements and resignations resulted in 4 new officers joining the force this past year. Bennett says 3 of them are currently at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, and they will undergo field training next month. He says the recent lack of manpower has made for a heavier workload for those who are on patrol.
The guys that are out there doing the actual work, they are spread thin. They're going to more calls individually, as opposed to, obviously, if you have 4 people working a shift, your rotation on calls is less than if you 2 guys like today. There's 2 guys working. So with vacations, guys that get injured, those sort of things, it spreads thin. But the guys have stepped up and done a good job, and there's not been any griping, any grumbling. So all in all, they've done a great job.
Bennett says one of the department's goals for 2014 is looking to work with other local law enforcement agencies more often to help combat impaired driving. He also says the department is looking into working more closely with the DuBois County Humane Society to help alleviate animal complaints across the city. All right, coming up after the break, Carrie is back with our friends at the DuBois County Humane Society, plus your local forecast, sports with Kurt Gooksell, and Inform featuring Clayton Boyles and Connie Evans with the DuBois County Community Foundation. That's all up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.